Throughout human history, we've built soaring monuments, created breathtaking art, and achieved incredible scientific breakthroughs. We've shown boundless capacity for love, compassion, and innovation. But alongside this bright tapestry of achievement runs a darker thread, a history of cruelty, conflict, and disaster that reveals the most unsettling aspects of our nature. Today, we're going to journey into some of humanity's darkest corners, not to sensationalize, but to understand, to look into the shadows and ask, why? What lessons can we learn from the tragedies of our past? Our story begins in the ancient world, a time we often romanticize. But beneath the veneer of philosophy and empire, brutality was a fact of life. Take the Roman Colosseum. More than just an architectural marvel, it was a stage for state-sanctioned slaughter. Gladiators, often slaves or prisoners of war, fought to the death for the entertainment of the masses. It wasn't just man against man. Exotic animals, captured from across the empire, were pitted against each other or against condemned criminals in horrifying spectacles. Historians estimate that hundreds of thousands of lives, both human and animal, were extinguished within its walls. This wasn't hidden away. It was the centerpiece of Roman culture, a celebrated form of public entertainment. It forces us to confront a difficult question. How can a society that gave us law, engineering, and literature also revel in such institutionalized violence? The darkness wasn't confined to grand arenas. Throughout medieval Europe, fear and superstition fueled the witch hunts. Over several centuries, tens of thousands of people, mostly women, were accused of witchcraft. They were subjected to unimaginable torture, forced into false confessions, and executed in the most horrific ways. This was not the work of a few fanatics. It was a widespread panic, supported by both religious and secular authorities. It was a time when pointing a finger, fueled by personal grudges, a bad harvest, or simple misunderstanding, could be a death sentence. The witch trials stand as a chilling reminder of how mass hysteria and the need for a scapegoat can dismantle reason and compassion, turning neighbors against each other in a frenzy of paranoia. As we move forward in time, the methods of cruelty became more systematic, more industrial. The transatlantic slave trade represents one of the most prolonged and horrific chapters in human history. For over 400 years, millions of African men, women, and children were forcibly captured, torn from their homes, and packed into the suffocating hulls of ships for a brutal journey across the Atlantic. They were treated not as human beings, but as cargo, as property. Those who survived the Middle Passage were sold into a life of forced labor, their identities erased, their families shattered. The sheer scale and economic machinery behind this trade are staggering. It was a system built on a foundation of dehumanization, greed, and immense suffering, leaving scars on our world that have yet to fully heal. It demonstrates how economic incentives, when combined with racial prejudice, can lead humanity to commit atrocities on a global scale. The 20th century, an age of unprecedented technological progress, also gave birth to unprecedented horrors. World War I introduced a new kind of warfare, trench warfare. Millions of young men were sent into a nightmarish landscape of mud, barbed wire, and constant shelling. Life in the trenches was a grim existence, defined by disease, fear, and the omnipresent threat of a violent, anonymous death. Battles like the Somme and Verdun saw casualties on a scale that was previously unimaginable, with hundreds of thousands lost for gains of just a few miles of cratered earth. The psychological toll, then called shell shock and now known as PTSD, shattered the minds of countless survivors. The Great War was a brutal awakening, a moment when the promise of a modern civilized world was drowned in a sea of blood and mud, proving that our technological advancements could be used to amplify our capacity for destruction. Just 2 decades later, the world plunged into darkness again. The Holocaust stands as a singular event, in its methodical, bureaucratic, and industrial-scale extermination of 6 million Jews, along with millions of other victims, including Roma, homosexuals, and political dissidents. The Nazi regime employed the full apparatus of the modern state railways, factories, and meticulous record-keeping to carry out genocide. Concentration and extermination camps like Auschwitz-Birkenau were not battlefields. They were factories of death. The Holocaust is a terrifying testament to the depths of human hatred and the dangers of ideology when it is used to strip a group of people of their humanity. It forces us to confront the chilling reality that such evil can be perpetrated by ordinary people, convinced by propaganda and swept up in a system of absolute power. But darkness isn't always the product of deliberate malice. Sometimes it stems from human error, arrogance, and a failure to respect the power we wield. On April 26, 1986, a routine safety test at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Soviet Ukraine went catastrophically wrong. A reactor explosion and subsequent fire released a massive cloud of radioactive material into the atmosphere, contaminating vast areas of Europe. The initial response was shrouded in secrecy and denial, delaying evacuation and exposing countless people to lethal doses of radiation. The city of Pripyat became a ghost town overnight, an eerie monument to the disaster. Chernobyl was a man-made catastrophe, a stark warning about the potential consequences of our quest for energy and the immense responsibility that comes with it. It showed how a combination of flawed design, human error, and a culture of secrecy could lead to a disaster with global and generational impact. From the blood-soaked sands of the Colosseum to the radioactive ruins of Chernobyl, these dark chapters of our history paint a somber picture. They reveal our capacity for cruelty, our susceptibility to hysteria, and the devastating consequences of our greed and hubris. But they also carry vital lessons. They remind us of the importance of empathy, of questioning authority, and of remembering the victims so we do not repeat the mistakes of the past. By looking into the darkness, we are not just dwelling on tragedy. We are arming ourselves with knowledge and understanding, striving to ensure that the brightest aspects of humanity, our compassion, our reason, and our hope are the ones that ultimately light our path forward. Thank you for joining us on this difficult but important journey. If you found this exploration meaningful, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay curious and stay thoughtful.